Hey, it's Chris with retrosession.org. I'm so happy you're here. This is episode 10 of my daily podcast, Step into Bliss. Today, we're stepping into creativity. I love this topic, and this is something I present regularly at live workshops. One day I'll probably offer it online, but right now it's only live. So this will be a little bit different today, because I want you to get the full experience. Often with this podcast, I want it to be the kind of thing you can either sit with and work with during the day or even just put on as you go to sleep at night. This one, sure, you can try to go to sleep during it, but I'm not making an effort to keep things calm and peaceful, so you may want to turn it down a bit if you're in bed. The other thing about this one is you're going to be best served if you have something to write on, or if you're a painter, maybe your brushes and paint, a canvas, a writer, your preferred writing implement, whether a computer, a pen, or otherwise. Whatever your medium of creativity is, have it with you. And I don't want to give you the wrong impression based on what I just said. This isn't just for artists and writers. This is going to be game-changing for you, whatever you do. If you're a business person, it's going to change your life. Accessing this deep well of creativity that is always available to us is life-changing. So for me, I'm a writer. More so in the past than now. But I learned some years ago that writer's block is never necessary. Believe it or not, writer's block is not a thing if you know the right practices. And in business, before I quit my day job, I was working in middle management. My boss, also in middle management, just above me, and I worked together. And she always told me that she appreciated my ideas. Well, let me tell you, those ideas didn't come from an idea factory in my brain that's just really good at creating ideas. Every single time she asked me to solve a challenging problem, I did what I'm going to teach you today. And I'm so excited to do it. So, you want to have something to write on? You want to have, potentially, your medium of expression. And for somebody with a business, that may just be your notebook. You can write your ideas down. This is practical. Let's get to it. Albert Einstein said about creativity that creativity is intelligence having fun. I couldn't agree more. Sometimes my wife kind of makes fun of me. It's very lighthearted, though. She's very kind. But sometimes she makes fun of me because she says that I don't like to have fun. Well, and my response is always, well, I like to have fun. It's just not what most people think is fun. What I think is fun is creating things. I'm not interested in consuming what's created by others so much. I'm less interested in reading than I am in writing. It's not that my ideas are better and I think that others don't have something to share. I certainly do pay attention to the ideas of others, but that's not where I'm oriented. I'm oriented toward creating. So I'm pretty biased in this topic. But for me, creativity flourishes from a place of openness and surrender. It's about embracing what is rather than clinging to what I desire. And this acceptance allows me to work with my current reality and transform it into something beautiful. So for me, creativity is not just a destination, but a vital part of my journey. So I'm gonna jump to one part of that before I really get into the practical side of this. It might sound a little counterintuitive. That surrender to what is, acceptance of what is the foundation of creativity. Because isn't creativity going above and beyond, moving beyond the status quo? Absolutely. But foundationally, we have to accept what we have. So if I'm a painter and I have a canvas, I'm working in the medium of oil paint, and I have a canvas, I have my oil paints, I have, let's just say 4 colors, 4 oils. And I have 2 brushes. Now, of course, I can go to the store and buy more, but let's just say that that's what I'm working with today, and I'm not going to go to the store. So I take what I have, I acknowledge it for what it is. I'm not wishing that I had a particular shade of green. I have what I have. But what I do once I've inventoried what I have to create with, to paint with, once I figured out what's there, I can make decisions about where I want to go. And the possibilities are limitless. So there's no wishing, oh, I wish I had that. It's where am I? Now, where am I going to go? How can I push the very boundaries of the medium that I have, the colors that I have? In the case of writing, the words, the ideas that I have. How can I push the boundaries beyond where they currently are? I'm kind of fired up about this topic. So I paused, went to my the stand next to my bed, and I pulled out one of my favorite books. It's Seth Godin's The Icarus Deception. And honestly, I didn't have a quote in mind that I wanted to read to you from it. I just recommend the book. But I jumped to a page, and I want to read. It's just a couple paragraphs to you. And now, it's not necessarily, I don't think he uses the word creativity, but this is so relevant. And then there's another quote by a philosopher, French philosopher, I'm going to read to you, which really ties in with this. Courage doesn't always involve physical heroism in the face of death. It doesn't always require giant leaps worthy of celebration. Sometimes courage is the willingness to speak the truth about what you see and to own what you say. Man, it's giving me chills. In order for there to be courage, of course, there must be risk. It doesn't take courage to open the refrigerator because there's no downside. No, courage is necessary because owning our point of view brings risk. When you speak your truth, you have opened a door allowing others to speak to you, directly to you, to your true self. Wow. A next page, Brene Brown quote, courage is telling our story, not being immune to criticism. I almost want to go back and read those paragraphs again, but I'm going to leave that to you. If you want to pause and go back, do it, because that's some powerful stuff. All right, let's wet our whistles with another quote. And please forgive my French pronunciation. I do not speak French, but Jean-Paul Sartre. He's a French philosopher. This is from The Psychology of Imagination, another book I have on my shelf. The act of imagination is a magical one. It is an incantation destined to produce the object of one's thought, the thing one desires, in a manner that one can take possession of it. In that act, there is always something of the imperious and the infantile, a refusal to take distance or difficulties into account. I am going to repeat this one because it's dense. He's a philosopher after all. We'll unpack it. We'll take some time to unpack it. The act of imagination is a magical one. It is an incantation destined to produce the object of one's thought, the thing one desires, in a manner that one can take possession of it. In that act, there is always something of the imperious and the infantile, a refusal to take distance or difficulties into account. We're going to dig into those words a little bit here. I know that when I put together my creativity workshop that I looked up the word imperious. So I'm sure many of you know what it means, but imperious means assuming power or authority without justification, arrogant and domineering. So isn't that interesting choice of words? This was translated clearly. He's a French philosopher, but I think that word is really powerful. So we have 2 words, imperious and infantile. And until I read this quote, I don't think I would have used those 2 words or those 2 ideas when I think about creativity, or he's talking about imagination, but essentially the same thing for our purposes. There's always something of the imperious, the arrogant, the domineering, assuming power without justification. There's always something imperious and infantile about creativity. Infantile. I see it. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. Babies are self-centered. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they don't have a notion of a separate self yet. So when we're creative, we're infantile. Like that child, we've dropped preconceived notions. We've dropped the idea of a separate self. We've surrendered to what is. And then the creativity flows. It comes from the deepest of wells. So that all sounds good. But what stops our creativity? Why do we get writer's block? Why do we stare at a canvas, paint at the ready? Nothing materializes. I mean, for me, fear is probably the big one in the past, especially, that really stopped my creativity. I had, maybe more than anything, a fear of success. Yeah, there was fear of failure. I'll go into that, but this was fear of success. Fear of success probably has as many causes as there are people that suffer from it. But I know for me, I don't think I felt like I was worthy to succeed. Another way of looking at it, fear of success can come from, and I think I suffered from both versions of this. Well, once I accomplished something, then what? I was a perpetual seeker through most of my life, up until recent years. And I recognized in myself that I was always looking for something. And finding then put an end to that. And that, in a sense, ended a big part of me. So finding success ends the striving, in a sense. And obviously that's not the case, but I think subconsciously that can happen. Then there's a kind of fear of failure. Fear of failure has different varieties, but the one that is just so insidious for me, especially in the past, is this one. If I do my best, if I get out of the way and let the best of me come forward and I fail, then it's like I have failed. So if I don't do my best and I really don't dig into that deep well and pull out everything that I have to give and I fail, well, there's a good reason. I didn't dig as deep as I could have. I have excuses. Oh, I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the time. My job is too much. I've been going through a tough time in my marriage. Whatever the case may be, I have excuses. But if I really dig deep, I bring out everything that I can, and then I fail, man. So that's, I guess it's really a combination of fear of success and fear of failure. So we have fear of success, fear of failure. What else? Simple lack of confidence could be a big part of it. Lack of confidence that we have anything to contribute, anything to create. There's inertia. Well, I've always done things this way. Well, that's quite the opposite of creativity. Creativity is the opposite of inertia. We're not moving in the same direction anymore. We're moving in an entirely new direction. We may have judgments about ourselves. I'm not a creative person, not my strength. And while some people do have more creativity than others naturally, I believe that everyone has a creative streak. And I hope that today, though we're just scratching the surface, I hope that today you discover a part of yourself you weren't aware of, or a part of yourself that you only access sporadically and not on demand. All right, so we talked about things that stop creativity. What enhances creativity? I think fearlessness is maybe the biggest one. The willingness to let go of fear of ideas, consequences, and preconceived notions about what is and what should be. Not thinking about what can go wrong, but thinking about what can go right. And that's the beautiful thing about a creative space is you can create whatever you want and you don't necessarily have to follow through. So really specifically talking about the business or career context, we don't have to follow through on the ideas. Let's get fearless in pursuing the ideas first. we'll figure out execution later. Having openness, a willingness to consider things that are potentially absurd, worthless, inane, unexpected, that's going to help with creativity. Now, this one's a little deep here, but I'm going to get into it a bit. So the structure of how we look at things can affect our creativity. So maybe I'm looking at a problem, the big picture problem. Sometimes a smaller universe of possibilities is going to enhance our creativity. So instead of looking at the problem globally, as soon as I focus down to the minutia, maybe that's where my creativity kicks in. Or maybe we go the other direction. So an example, if I'm starting a new business and I'm worried about the logo, the logo. The logo can be a pretty big picture thing. It's going to represent the company. Once I've paid to have it created, that logo is going to represent the company, and I'm not going to go pay someone else to create another one. It needs to be right. It's a big problem. What if? So I'm feeling kind of stuck, and I'm worried about this logo. Well, maybe if I narrow it down and I kind of let the logo go, but I decide on the color. What color do I want to represent my business? Sometimes that's when the creativity is going to come out, because now I've limited down all the aspects that go into a logo, and suddenly I'm just talking about color that may be more accessible to me. And sometimes, of course, the opposite holds. Maybe I'm focused on the minutia, I'm focused on that color, but what I really need to focus on is not even the logo, actually. Maybe I want to focus on how people feel when they're in the store, if I'm opening a store or a restaurant. How do they feel when they walk in? So now I have the broadest of broad questions. Maybe that's when my creativity comes out. So zooming in, zooming out can be actually a technique. I didn't intend to cover techniques, but that's actually a wonderful technique for enhancing creativity. One more thing that can enhance creativity is defining the problem we're trying to solve well. Now, this probably has applications in the visual arts, but I'm not really a visual artist. So in writing, certainly in business development, defining the problem well is going to get you a better answer. If you ask the right questions, you're going to get a better answer, which is another way of saying the same thing. And really, I've already given an example of this inadvertently when I talked about asking, how do I want people to feel when they walk into my new store? That's defining the question differently. Because I could ask, what color do I want to choose? Well, that's a different question. I might like the color blue, a particular shade of blue, but does that color convey what I'm hoping to convey? Does that make the customer feel the way I want them to feel? All right. So we're going to move into the practical side of things here. So make sure you have something to write with. Could be your computer, could be a notebook, pen, whatever is going to be most effective for you. Pause if you need to go get that. It's important. If you're driving, obviously, come back to this later. Maybe listen, play with it in your mind, but you can do that later. So to the prior point, let's define the problem. What are you trying to accomplish? I mean that broadly. Are you painting a painting? Are you writing a short story? Are you writing an essay? Are you starting a new business? Are you developing a new marketing strategy? Start there, broad, but then narrow it. Spend some time doing this. If you have time now, great. If you need to do it later, awesome. You can come back. But start to refine the question that you're asking of yourself. Do that now, because we're going to use this as we move into the next segment, the practical side of this. Now, I'm really giving you a quick 30 plus minute version of my 2-hour Supercharge Your Creativity with Meditation workshop. That's not available online. I realize I need to get another one scheduled live. I am sure I'm thinking I really need to get that online, so I'm going to work on that soon. No promises on when that'll be, but I will get that full workshop up. I'll probably get it up as an online course, so something you can work through, watch videos, do the work. Probably something that's not going to just take a couple hours. Probably something that you'll spend a month doing. A little bit of time here and there. Watch the videos, do the work, that kind of thing. So look out for that. But now, let's get started. So I really mean it when I say you should pause this video. You're going to take some time formulating what the problem is. Maybe you don't think of it as a problem. The thing you're trying to create. I really want you to pause, get out pen and paper, and take some time, as much time as you need, to write down what it is you're trying to create or the problem you're trying to solve. If you're not sure what that problem is, it really could be anything. These techniques are going to be useful for you, and getting some practice with it now is well worth it. So it could be something as simple as how you want your furniture in the living room to be arranged, or something as broad and deep as what kind of life you want to lead. But take the time to write it down. And once you've written it down, think back to what I was saying about how broad the problem is stated or how narrow the problem is stated. If it's broad, if it's a big one, like what kind of life do I want to lead, consider whether you want to narrow it down. And you may not want to, but think about it. And if it's a narrow issue, like what kind of car do I want to drive, maybe think about considering a broader question. Just to see, test the waters. Take it a little broader, take it narrower. Really settle on the issue that you want to consider, the problem you want to solve, the thing you want to create. And then once you've done that, once you're satisfied, come back here, hit play, and we'll get started. Just take a moment to settle in. Be seated in a comfortable chair. Or maybe you're lying down. But if you're lying down, you may want to have your pen or wherever you're writing handy. Get as comfortable as you can. So if there's any discomfort, take whatever time you need to shift, to settle in. Really feel yourself relax, sinking into the seat, the bed, the floor. And we'll breathe together. Take a deep cleansing breath in through the nose, slow breath. Fill up. Pause at the top. And then sigh it all out, settling in a little bit more as you sigh it out. Another one of those, deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Pausing at the top. Let all of that go, releasing as deep as you can into the muscles, into the joints. One last deep cleansing breath in, slowest, deepest breath yet. Pausing at the top, but this time, take another sip of air through the nose. And then slowly sigh it out, all of it out. You find yourself really sinking in now. And just rest there for a moment. Unlike some of these podcasts, this one, mind is alert, even if body is relaxed. Another piece of this. So mind is alert, but just like the body, the thoughts have slowed. If you find yourself with racing thoughts, if you find thoughts coming up distracting you, that's okay. But maybe you find an anchor like the breath, and every time you get distracted, just come back to the breath. Or maybe consider the sense of being in the body, that felt sense of existing. That can be your anchor. Or the sounds in the room. We use that one a lot here. This is not a thinking process. Know that. Creativity is not a thinking process. In some problems, thinking may be used as a tool, but it's not the primary mechanism here. Thinking is what gets us the status quo. We're going to move beyond thinking here. The answers are there. Creativity is there. Most of the time, our thinking, cogitating minds are in the way. So notice the sounds in the room. Ambient noises, maybe the heat or air conditioners going, the dishwasher. Maybe you hear sounds filtering in from outside. Just notice them. Anytime distractions come in, just bring your attention right back to the sounds. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So maybe you just notice one sound. Or maybe you notice one sound and then another and then another. Like a bee flitting from flower to flower. Or maybe you just find yourself floating in the midst of all that sound, relaxed, floating, peaceful. As many distractions come in, that's as many times as you're just going to gently and lovingly come back to the sounds around you. There's no right or wrong number of times to have to come back. It's okay to be distracted. The important part is coming back. So when it comes to holding the sounds in your attention, I'm going to give you a metaphor. This is going to be important. So you're holding the sounds in your attention, a lot like the way you would hold the fluffiest, most beautiful little kitten in your hands. You're holding it in front of you, at about chest height. When that kitten tries to crawl out of your hands, you just simply shift your hands to the side, blocking its path, bringing it right back to center, lovingly. You don't clamp down the hands. You don't drop the kitten. You just gently and lovingly bring it right back. Same thing here with the sound. Your attention is kind of like that kitten. It may want to crawl away. It may want to go to other things. Right now, this is what you're doing. There's time for those other things later. And this is crucial in this process. Just hear you and the sound, coming back gently and lovingly, coming back to center as many times as it takes. Just like you wouldn't get angry with that kitten for trying to crawl away. Same thing with the mind. Just lovingly bring it right back as many times as it takes. This takes practice. This 30-some minute podcast is not going to be the end-all be-all for you. If you find value here, you can practice daily. It gets easier. Concentration becomes more effortless. There's going to be less coming back, more just being with time. And there's so much here right now, in this moment, not the past, not the future. The creativity is right here, right now. So let's be here. Now, using your attention in the same way as you have with the sounds around you, call to mind the problem you're trying to solve, the thing you're creating. Just lightly, gently. We're not squeezing it and thinking about it. You may not even really use word thoughts. You might just know that you're holding this problem in your attention. It's difficult to put into words. Once you do that, you'll understand. You don't need to be thinking about it, thinking words. You don't even really need to be thinking pictures. You might. Just know that the problem is right there. You're aware of it. It's the thing that we're doing right now. Mind is alert. Body relaxed. Gently holding that problem with the attention. Just sit there with it for a moment. Now, as you sit with it, notice if your mind is trying to do something. You're trying to think, well, if this, then that. Well, because of this, I need to do that. That's not what we're doing here. There's plenty of time for that after this. Right now, we're just sitting with the problem, mind alert, body relaxed, thoughts slowed to a crawl, at peace. And listen, not to me, not even to your inner voice, the one that you talk to yourself with, not that. Underneath that all is the wisdom, the creativity. In the stillness, from time to time, and the more you practice this, the more rapidly it happens. But the answers, the solutions, they appear. No effort on your part. And you'll know. It takes time. You'll begin to see the pattern. You'll see how it works. Fully formed ideas pop out. So we're not thinking our way. We're not building slowly to something. Fully formed ideas pop out of the stillness. And watch. If those ideas seem absurd, if they seem impossible, stick with them. Trust me. If the solution, if the thing you're trying to create were obvious, we wouldn't need to do this. It's not obvious. Allow your mind to offer these solutions. Sit with them. And once one comes up, you might start to get a little bit of sense of where it's headed, and that's good. At that point, we're not really thinking about it, but allow the mind to wander over that potential solution. So this isn't an intense process like solving a math problem. This is not like that. Once that solution arises fully formed, or an idea arises fully formed, allow it to start to gather some momentum. You're not purposely feeding energy into these thoughts. You're just sitting with them. They start to roll, and then that's when you grab the pen, the paper, the phone, the computer. I really think using pen and paper is good here, but start to write it down. And let go. Let go of ideas. Let go of criticism. Let go of what you think you're supposed to be doing. When those ideas come, you grab your pen and paper and you start to write, and you don't criticize. Now is not the time to criticize the idea or fully form it. Let it come out pure, maybe a little chaotic. That's okay. Let it come out. Let it speak to you. There's time later to construct something doable. Right now it's about brainstorming, letting everything come out. Then like the sculptor, we have the clay, and we start to refine it, but that's not the time right now. No need to refine. So you're sitting, holding the problem with your attention. The idea comes out fully formed. Ideas come out fully formed. You'll know when you find it. It can take some time. We're sitting with those ideas and allowing the mind to wander. It's almost like daydreaming. This stage takes practice as well. Let everything come out. Write it all down. Refine later. You'll recognize the wisdom when it appears. And like I said, it's almost never what you expect. Over time, as I used this process, I came to recognize something, and I've hinted at it. Sometimes, often, with me at least, if something appears absurd at first, that's when it's time to really lean into it. What is there? What is the angle I missed before? What is the assumption that's now being challenged? Why does this feel awkward? Why does this feel wild? Why does it feel impractical? Allow it to form. Allow yourself to consider it. You have an infinite well of creativity within you. The only reason you've struggled to access it is because you're trying to keep control. This is the way things are in my life. This is the way things are with my art. This is the way things are and they're supposed to be with my writing. Whatever the case may be, whatever the problem, whatever the thing you're trying to create, your mind has tried to maintain control. Creativity is about surrender to what is, and then surrender to possibility. So we sit quietly, mindful, with what is. And then the possibility starts to show itself. I'm not going to give you a big formal exit, but this is the end of the podcast. If you have the time, the inclination, just sit or lie down. Relax, mind alert, thoughts slow. And allow as many ideas as want to show themselves, allow them to pop out. Really sit with them. Give them space to grow. I think you're going to find some amazing things there. Some tremendous insights. I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me in the chat box at retrosession.org or social media through direct message. And look out for that longer course on creativity. It's going to come soon. I'd love to see you there. Until next time, it's Chris from retrosession.org.